Bhagavatam. We are having an 18-day summary study of the greatest literature available to mankind, Srimad Bhagavatam. Before we start, I shall chant a few prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 hare hare. So I would like to welcome once more everyone for the third day's session on the summary study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains 12 cantos, 335 chapters and 18,000 shlokas, the topmost, the highest among all the Vedic scriptures. We have begun the summary study of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains 19 chapters and 808 shlokas or verses. The beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, inquiring from the great sage Suta Goswami about 6 questions. And the first 2 questions have already been answered by Suta Goswami regarding the highest benefit for all the living entities and the one and only process which can completely satisfy the heart and the soul. This has been explained in 1.2.6 by Suta Goswami, that Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo, the Paro Dharmo, the highest activity for the greatest benefit for each and everyone in this material world is Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje, is the rendering of pure devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who is also known as Adhokshaja. But that devotional service, in order to completely satisfy the heart and the soul, Atma Suprasidati, to satisfy the soul, it should be ahaituki, unmotivated, without any selfish motives, and it should be apratihata, it should be uninterrupted. So such unalloyed devotional service is what can completely satisfy the soul of everyone. Now, moving to further explain the highest, the topmost position of devotional service for the greatest benefit of all the living beings, Suta Goswami explains further in the second chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam how the process of devotional service is complete in itself, in that all other spiritual requirements, all other spiritual qualities automatically come to a person who engages in bhakti or devotional service. And then normally in the Vedic scriptures, the scheme, the plan for the human form of life is defined by four purusharthas, the four objectives of the human form of life. And they are, the four purusharthas are dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, the Vedic conception of society gives a very clear objective that for every human being, uh, one should engage in trying to achieve these four objectives in life: religiosity, economic development, dharma, artha. The third one is the fulfillment of our material desires, kama, and finally, the fourth purushartha is set out to be moksha, or liberation from material existence. So, normally, this is considered to be like a stepwise progression in spiritual life. Uh, Dharma, the execution of religious principles leading to artha, or economic development, and artha leading to kama, or the fulfillment of one's desires. And when one is completely satisfied and also becomes frustrated with the fulfillment of material desires, which can never ever what to speak of satisfying the soul. They cannot have any access, they cannot touch the spiritual living being. So hence one naturally progresses to the path of moksha, or the path of liberation from material existence. So this is the normal, ordinary scheme, the plan of things which has been designed by the Vedic culture, by the Vedic instructions. But actually, this is a slow motion process. This takes a long period of time for a person to properly understand the right objectives, the right purpose of each of the stages of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, and there is always a chance of slipping down, of degrading oneself from any of these gradual steps of progression towards spiritual perfection. So, therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam does not recommend this gradual ascension of spiritual progress. And Suta Goswami recommends the real purpose, the uh, the final goal of all these processes, by which one can directly achieve the ultimate purpose of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, Suta Goswami in 1.2.9 very clearly establishes that dharmasya hi apavargasya. Dharma is not meant for economic development, it is actually meant directly. All religious principles should be executed with the objective of attaining apavarga, or liberation. So, liberation is described as apavarga, the opposite of pavarga, which I had explained in great detail yesterday, that material existence is uh, uh, it is uh, explained as pavarga because this signifies the five conditions of pa, pha, ba, bha, and finally ma. Parishrama, or great effort, has to be taken to survive in this material world, to the point of desperation and complete exhaustion, leading to more and more material bondage in an atmosphere of great fear, and finally one has to face mrityu, marana, or death. And the exactly opposite of that is apavarga, an existence that is free from unnecessary effort or exhaustion or desperation, free from all bondage, free from fear, and free from even the greatest calamity of mrityu or death. So, such an existence is called apavarga, and that is possible when one attains liberation or moksha. So, one should strive to execute religious principles directly to attain moksha and not spoil one's effort in religiosity for artha and kama. So, dharma should be directed for moksha, and likewise, dharmasya hi apavargasya nagthogthayopakalpate nagthasya hi dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. And normally, artha or economic development or any possession of wealth is normally understood to be for the sake of the fulfillment of our material desires. Whenever we have some wealth, we think of spending that wealth in order to fulfill our material desires. But here the Bhagavatam recommends not to spoil one's artha in the fulfillment of temporary material desires, because everything is ultimately temporary and going to be spoiled, going to be finished in this material world. So, therefore, artha should actually be just for the fulfillment not of our material desires, but just to maintain dignified, decent living, by which one can save the extra time and energy for the ultimate perfection of life, for the sake of engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, which is described here, mentioned here as ekanta dharma, that one supreme occupational duty of the soul, of the Atma, is to engage in the loving devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Likewise, the third Purushartha, which is Kama, the fulfillment of material desires, is explained in the 10th verse that Kamasya na indriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nagtho yascheha karmabhihi. That the the desires which are inherent in the soul should not be directed towards the fulfillment of material desires, but instead our kama refers to desire, and desire is the energy, the symptom of the jivatma, of the soul, should be directed towards leading a healthy spiritual life. Kamasya na indriya pritihi, should not be, the desires of life should not be molded or directed only for the satisfaction of the senses, of the material senses, but labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nagtho yascheha karmabhihi. One's desire, every living entity has got desire, but that desire is rightly placed, is rightly directed when one has the intense desire to understand jivasya tattva jigyasa, to understand the supreme absolute truth. So, life's desires should be so molded that we can progress on the path of the understanding or revelation of the supreme absolute truth. Jivasya tattva jigyasa nagtho yascheha karmabhihi. Now, the Srimad Bhagavatam is such a beautiful and the most exalted literature that in one verse, in text number 10, Suta Goswami states that life's desires should be directed towards the understanding, towards the inquiry of the Supreme Absolute Truth known as Tattva. And right in the next verse, in 1.2.11, Suta Goswami very mercifully reveals the complete science of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the complete revelation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. This text 1.2.11 of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the golden statement of the Srimad Bhagavatam and is a unique verse not to be found in any other Vedic scripture, in any other Vedic literature, nor in any book of knowledge in the entire world. One verse gives the complete revelation of what the Supreme Absolute Truth is. This is also the direction given by the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra, that Athato Brahma Jigyasa, that the human form of life is especially meant for the search for inquiry into the Supreme Absolute Truth. And then it goes on elaborately explaining the Vedanta Sutra or the Brahma Sutra has got 4 chapters, 4 cantos containing 555 sutras. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is such a wonderful and great literature that in one verse it says you should do Tattva Jigyasa, that human life is meant for the understanding and inquiry into the Supreme Absolute Truth, and then cuts short the process of Jigyasa, and right in the next verse gives a most complete understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth. You don't have to wait, you don't have to engage in the study for a long period of time or go into diverse subject matters and then come to the final ultimate understanding. Right now, the Supreme Absolute Truth is completely revealed. It's just like so wonderful that a child gets admission into school and right the next moment is awarded the highest degree of post graduation or a PhD. So it's as wonderful and as unique as that, and that is the unique and special position of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here Srimad Bhagavatam in 1.2.11, one of the most important verses in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam and in the entire collection of all Vedic knowledge, 1.2.11. What the Vedanta Sutra is searching, what all the Vedas are aspiring to know and understand. Veda itself means knowledge. But here, the complete answer is given in just one shloka in one verse. So, what is that wonderful, wonderful explanation given in the Srimad Bhagavatam? So, here it is stated that Vadanti tat tattva vidaha tattvam yadjnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Tattvam yadjnanamadvayam, that advaya jnana tattva, the parama tattva, the Supreme Absolute Truth is revealed, is understood in 3 stages of revelation, 3 stages of progression. The first level of the revelation of the Absolute Truth is called Brahman, as revealed in the Upanishads, that Sarvam Khalva Idam Brahma, that the all pervading feature of the Absolute Truth is called Brahman. The next level, which is higher than the revelation of Brahman, the second level is called Paramatma iti, the revelation of Paramatma or the super soul. The super soul is also explained to be the localized aspect of the supreme absolute truth. Brahman is the all-pervasive feature of the supreme absolute truth. It is also the manifestation of the Sat aspect of the supreme absolute truth, or the aspect of eternity. And the second level of the revelation of the absolute truth is called Paramatma iti, or the localized aspect of the Supreme Lord, who is present as his reflection in the heart of every living being. The Paramatma has got a very specific role, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita 13.22, that Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha. The Paramatma is also revealed. He is the overseer, he is the supervisor, and in the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also revealed that the Paramatma is the supreme friend of all the living beings. All the living beings in this samsara, in this material world, have turned away from the supreme absolute truth and are here in this material world. But the supreme absolute truth, although the tiny jivatma, which is an amsha of the supreme absolute truth, of the supreme Brahman, has turned away from the supreme Brahman and has come here to the samsara sagara. So although the jivatma has left the supreme Lord, the supreme absolute truth never leaves the jivatma. In all its existences in this material world, the supreme absolute truth accompanies the jivatma, each and every jivatma, the trillions and innumerable living entities, all of them are accompanied by the supreme friend of all the living entities, which is the supreme absolute truth in his feature as Paramatma. And Paramatma is the realization, is the manifestation, the embodiment of two features of the absolute truth, Sat and Chit. He is not only eternal, Paramatma embodies the principle of eternity as well as omniscience, or all knowing omniscience. So the Paramatma is also explained in the Upanishads as Dvasupagna Sayuja Sakhaya, the supreme witness and friend of the Jivatma, and the Jivatma's every moment, every desire, every activity is witnessed and noted by the Paramatma, and hence the Paramatma is all knowing, he is omniscient. And finally, the ultimate, the third, the highest level of the revelation of the Advaya Jnana Tattva of Parama Satya, of the Supreme Absolute Truth, is revealed to be Bhagavan iti Shabdyate, is the Supreme Personality of God.